Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Tyler Reedy, sitting alongside our great principal, Mr. Jim Bopp.
Hi, Tyler.
Mr. Bopp, thanks for sitting down with me today. And first and foremost, congratulations on the recent news, accepting the new position at Brophy College Preparatory School out in Arizona. Congratulations. So we'll get started with the questions. First of all, just tell us a little bit about Brophy, how it compares to prep. Obviously, you got a chance to work there for 11 years, so you've got some experience with that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So Brophy College Prep is another school, another Jesuit Catholic all-boys school, so very much like Creighton Prep in that regard. It's a little bit bigger, about 1,350 boys, and then they also have a middle school as well of around 75 students. And it's in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona, and then just like all things prep, it's focused on the grad at grad, and it's college preparatory school, and it's focused on academic excellence and forming men for others.
Yeah, so in your 11 years at Brophy, you made a lot of great strides, not only going from a science teacher all the way up to assistant principal, but also starting and raising a family there. So what do you most look forward to about going back?
That's a great question. So I just have a ton of, my family has a lot of connections there still. So my boys still have good friendships there, and my wife and I have many, many friends, many of them at Brophy as well. So I'd say the number one thing we're looking forward to is the friendships. The climate doesn't hurt either, especially this time of year. It's a nice 75 degrees there right now as opposed to the windy and 12 degrees that we have going on here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now I'll look back at the 5 years you spent here at Creighton Prep. One of the things Mr. Nats, the man who preceded you as principal, told you when you came here was to be your own principal, be yourself in this position. So in your 5 years, how have you seen yourself grow, not only as a leader, but as a person too?
Yeah, so this is actually year number 6 for me, and it flies by, but over that time, you're right, that was some of the very first advice Mr. Nats gave me. You know, he was a longtime principal here, 2.5 decades, and he wanted to make sure that I knew that, it was important for me to set out my own path and not attempt to, imitate anybody else and stay true to who I am. So I feel like I have grown a lot in terms of shifting my focus to be about more about people than about tasks. So in this position in particular, it's really important to make sure that you're helping others cultivate their own gifts and then coordinate those to the betterment of the institution. So sometimes the things you do, you really spend a lot of time strategizing and thinking out years in advance. And then a lot of times things just pop up seemingly at random. Sometimes it seems like out of nowhere, but I think the Spirit is guiding it. And you're just trying to take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves from the people you're working with when you can. So I think that's probably one of the areas I've grown the most, is just being flexible, adaptable, and then learning how to help the community take advantage of the gifts that are present.
Yeah, that's great. So prep community, obviously, in your time here has accomplished a lot, whether it be the implementation of the Tomorrow Labs, Land and Learning Commons. So what school-wide accomplishments have you been most proud to oversee?
Yeah, one of the things that happened kind of gradually that I think a lot of people, it's harder to take notice of, it's a little bit in the background, but I've been, one of the most exciting legacies I feel like I'm leaving behind is a strong student activities program. When I first got here, the student activities department was just one person. It was a Jesuit scholastic. He had one release period, so 1 hour every other day, essentially, to do all the things that Mrs. Smith does right now and that Mr. Kennedy did before her. And so one of the things I, again, feel happy about was hiring Mr. Kennedy to come in and work at Prep, and the transformational work that he started to do that Mrs. Smith has carried on. So there's a sense of rejuvenation of the bird cage. The dances and other co-curricular activities have really flourished, and ping pong tables and stuff like that. It's just, I thought it was really important that students wake up every morning knowing that there was something exciting about their day at Prep that they were looking forward to, and that it wasn't just going to be academic rigor, and it wasn't just going to be about kind of slogging through a lot of hard work, but that there would be a lot of fun here. So that's one of the things that I've been most excited about, in addition to many of the things that you mentioned. Another important part of the job is hiring people and making sure that the right people come into the building. And I've had an opportunity to hire, several dozen folks over the 6 years that I've been here, and I've been really excited about the energy and the vitality and the new ideas that they've brought. A lot of the credit for what has happened over the last 6 years goes to my administrative team, and then also the great faculty that we have with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So focusing more on the students and the academic side of things, one of the goals and missions you've always had, especially stemming from your background as a physics teacher, starting at Brophy, is to have a more hands-on type of learning program for the students. So how would you evaluate the implementation of that goal in your time at Prep?
Yeah, I think it's really important that students learn to take responsibility for their own learning and that they experience a lot of intrinsic motivation for what it is that they want to do and why they want to do it. And so as opposed to having to step back and have a teacher tell you, exactly how high to jump, when to jump, where to jump. The best learning happens when students have some sense of independence and control, and then a great deal of excitement and motivation for what they're going to be about. So the Tomorrow Labs, I brought that online as a way of just having a real concrete manifestation of that type of learning experience for students, where now you have classes taking place where there are no lectures, there are no tests or quizzes, nobody's taking notes, right? They're learning by doing, and a lot of what they're learning, they're responsible for finding those things out themselves, and then putting them into action and making mistakes, but knowing it's okay to learn from those mistakes and to move forward with the experience that you gain from that. And I think that's filtered out across the entire school in a variety of different ways. What you're doing right now, I think, is a great example of exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. And the pandemic had a lot of downsides associated with it, but I think it also made it necessary for everybody, both students and teachers, to do some of that exact same type of work, where we were all taking responsibility for having to learn new things, to face new challenges, and in the process realizing we're a lot more creative and innovative than maybe we even realized.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see that develop here. So obviously in your 6 years, you've led this school through a lot of ups and downs, and one of which the pandemic, which we are still carefully attending to today. So what are some of the lessons that you'll be able to take from Prep to Brophy, just from your experience here?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we always have to remind ourselves is that every single school has gone through this.
Yeah.
So we all tackled it in different ways, but we all went through it together. And one of the best things about being at Creighton Prep is we're part of that larger Jesuit schools network. So a lot of the ideas that I got and inherited and that we worked through and that my administrative team used as well, and even other faculty, were because there was such great collaboration across all of the Jesuit high schools in the country. And so I think a lot of what Brophy learned and adapted to and started to do, it mirrors what we did as well. But I'd say if I had to take one lesson away from that, and that I want to continue to see exist in all Jesuit schools, it's that sense of people being, having the dual sense of being cooperative, really working together to solve a problem, but also being able to work creatively and independently to best suit the needs and the challenges that they see that students are facing. And I think the pandemic helped us all get outside of our, education is very traditional in a lot of respects, and it can be slow to change. And I think this helped us all realize we can be a lot better at serving students the more open we are to changing and adapting to the circumstances we're in. Sometimes in big ways like with the pandemic, but oftentimes in other littler ways that might be harder to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were to sit down with the next principal here at Creighton Prep, still searching to figure out who that may be, what advice would you give them?
It's a good question. I feel like Prep has a ton of forward momentum, and the pandemic may seem like the pandemic slowed that down a little bit, but I think we're easily getting past what might be considered a little bit of a speed bump on our way to just to continue to push forward. So yeah. My main piece of advice that I would lay down is it's really important, it's a Jesuit value to be in constant pursuit of the magis, which means we never sit back and feel totally satisfied with where we're at and what we've done or where we've been. And we're always trying to have the spirit of renewal and always have the spirit of as good as it is, we can still do something better. And so that's the biggest piece of advice I give somebody, is to always be constantly looking out for ways, not just tomorrow how things are going to be better, but what would this place look like 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now? And you have to have a long arc and the big picture in view in order to really be effective at making lasting change happen.
Yeah, so as the prep community concludes its 144th year and looks to move on with some new leadership, what's your message to the student body, administration, this whole community?
I think it's always important to remember what it is that we're here for. And we are here to form men who can be agents of change in the world, right? That are destined to go out, and not just destined, but feel called to go out and have a transformative impact on the world around them. You gotta, when guys graduate from prep, we don't want them to be happy with the world they're going into. Mm-hmm. We want them to look at the world critically and say, I have a set of gifts and some talent and some desire and ways that I can go out and make the world a better place. So that's my main message, is never to, settle down, never to be comfortable with kind of second-rate measures, but always do the very best you can, knowing that what you're doing is not really about yourself and the ways that you can make your own personal gains, but about the ways that, Christ is calling all of us to make the world a better place. And that will hopefully help drive our motivation and make us more committed to what it is that we're trying to do every day.
Yeah, that's excellent. So one last question here. There's been a lot of rumors circulating amongst the student body. What is Champ's future looking like now? Is he staying put?
Yeah, that's the most common question I get.
Yep.
And the same thing happened to Father Knightsky when Father Knightsky left. The most common question he got when he was told everybody he was moving to Chicago is everybody asked, well, what's Champ going to do? And he let people know that I was going to take Champ so that Champ could stay at prep. Well, I don't think my kids could survive without Champ, and I don't know if I could survive without Champ, so Champ will be headed with us to Phoenix. Now, the good thing is Brophy has a long history of having dogs on campus, probably for at least the last 20 years. So he will, he'll be the new king dog down at Brophy now.
Yeah, I just hope that big fur coat can handle all that hot weather.
Yeah, he's going to have to keep it close shave.
Oh, yeah.
From now on.
Well, Mr. Bopp, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Congratulations once again on the new position, and thank you so much for your leadership in these last 6 years here at Creighton Prep.
Thanks, Tyler. I really appreciate it. It's been a real joy and a blessing to be at Prep, and I appreciate the time you've taken with me today.
Absolutely. All right, thank you all for tuning in.